Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Beyond the Unknown. I'm your host, Jolie,
And I'm Quinn.
and today we're going to take you on a journey that is literally out of this world. Speculation about alien life forms have been ongoing since the beginning of ancient times, and reported UFO sightings have been recorded for just as long. But in this age of advanced technology and instant global communication, the frequency of reported sightings has surged. What's truly striking is the similarity among these accounts from individuals who share no apparent ties. Stomach. Some of those similarities include black triangles, three bright lights, and foreign body implants containing material not found on our earthly periodic table of elements. Stick with us as we dive deep into the specific sightings and the timeline of events, and most importantly, find out what's being implanted. Ugh, God, I was so close.
Almost.
Stick with us as we dive deeper into the specific sightings and the timeline of events, and most importantly, find out what is being implanted into unsuspecting individuals.
So, the first recorded UFO sightings date back to ancient times, and various cultures have documented mysterious aerial phenomena in their historical texts and records. One notable example is from ancient Egypt around the year 1440 BCE, where the pharaoh Thutmose III reported seeing fiery discs in the sky. Similarly, in the 4th century BCE, the Greek philosopher Plato documented an unusual event in the sky over the city of Athens. Those early accounts may not match our contemporary understanding of UFOs, but they describe unexplained aerial occurrences that intrigue historians and UFO enthusiasts alike. I can't talk tonight. The modern concept of UFOs gained prominence in the mid 20th century with the rise of reported sightings and the coining of the term flying saucer after an incident in 1947 involving pilot Kenneth Arnold. After an incident in 1947 involving pilot Kenneth Arnold. So, Arnold was an experienced pilot with over 4,000 hours. He was also a member of the Idaho Search and Rescue Team. On June 24th, 1947, on a clear day with light winds, Arnold was flying his small private craft en route to an air show in Oregon. He planned a small detour to try to locate a military unit that had crashed with 32 Marines. This happened near Mount Rainier in Washington. At around 3 p.m., Arnold reported seeing a sudden flash in the sky. He didn't think much of it. He assumed that there was just another plane in the area searching for missing Marines. But upon further inspection, he realized that this was not sun reflecting on another plane. Instead, he described seeing 9 flying objects through the sky.
Whoa.
Specifically, that's a lot.
Yeah, 9?
Yeah,
Like one, I feel like that's weird.
like 9. Specifically, he describes that the objects were each glowing blue and flying in a V formation. This
Whoa.
is also known as echelon formation.
Echelon?
Echelon, okay. This is also known as the echelon formation. Each object was flat and round with approximately a 100-foot diameter. Like, that's huge.
Wow.
Yeah,
100
so
feet?
yes, 100 feet, and there was 9. So not the total formation being 100 feet, but each disc.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I know it'd be hard to tell, like engage like in the air with no frame of reference, but you have to remember, like he's a very experienced pilot, like having those 4,000 hours. So they would be trained in kind of how to gauge how fast things are moving or what sizes they are, how close they are. So he described the objects also moving in a really weird way, kind of like a kite in the wind, flipping, weaving, banking.
Whoa.
Yeah, like things that I don't even know if we have any crafts other than a helicopter that can really do those like backwards, forwards
Mhm.
motions. He later denies this, but he reports describing them initially. Oh, sorry. He later denied this, but initially he reported describing them as saucers, discs, or like pie plates. He suspected the speed to have been at least 1,700 miles an hour or more. For frame of reference, this is twice the speed of sound, And the fastest recorded vehicle in the late 90s was 763 miles per hour. This is 100 miles per hour more than the average passenger plane. Apparently, there are some military planes that can travel around this speed. And being, oh, sorry. Apparently, there are some military planes that can travel around this speed. And being only 2 years after World War II and just the first year into the Cold War, this was Arnold's initial thought. Again, he still wasn't thinking, UFO, alien life forms. He was just still looking for possible causes. But later, the military confirmed that no military tests were being conducted in that airspace around Mount Rainier on that day. The government was never able to offer a credible explanation, and they tried to say that Arnold saw a mirage.
Wait,
I
doesn't a
know.
mirage happen with like a bunch of heat and then heat
Yeah.
on the ground? I'm gonna look up a mirage right.
It's not impossible to see a mirage, but this is so specific and it's so detailed. I don't think that that's going to be a mirage. I've seen mirages and it's not very clear looking.
Yeah, a mirage is a naturally occurring optical phenomenon in which rays bend via refraction to produce a displaced image of distant objects or the sky. So how could like all of these examples of mirages, and I remember like, seeing them when it's like hot or something, but like
Yeah,
how do you see a mirage in the sky? They're all on the ground.
I know. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't buy it. I think they just didn't have anything to say and they wanted him to kind of stop talking about it. But
Yeah.
afterwards, there were several other reports of seeing these UFOs, further corroborating Arnold's. However, afterwards, there were several other reports of seeing these UFOs, further corroborating Arnold's story. And L.G. Bernier from Richland, Washington, wrote to the Portland, Oregon Journal to report that he had observed three fast moving disc shaped objects headed towards Mount Rainier, suggesting that they were part of a larger formation as well. Another lady, Ethel Wheelhouse in Yakima, 60 miles west, also reported seeing flying discs at high speeds around the same time as Arnold's sighting. A Forest Service member in Diamond Gap, south of Yakima, witnessed flashes over Mount Rainier also at the same time.
Okay,
And
so
another,
something's happening there. We gotta
yeah,
go. We gotta go. My friends want to go hiking there this year because it's
ooh,
close-ish. And I think there's some aliens up there now.
oh yeah, I think we have to check it out. But wait, there was more witnesses. Another witness, Sidney B. Gallagher in Washington, also reported exactly 9 shiny discs. And then this one is what I take the most seriously because, again, it's coming from a flight crew. But 10 days later, a United Airlines crew over Idaho witnessed 5 to 9 disc like objects pacing
Whoa.
their plane. It was like following them. And it happened for about 10 to 15 minutes and then it disappeared.
Wow.
So to me, like that's damning. Like I know there's like, oh, I saw something in the sky. Like I did that the other day. I saw this weird straight bolt like line and I called Chris and I was like, yo, something's happening in the sky. There's something falling out of the sky. He thought I was crazy. He's like, okay, I got to do my farm chores. Once I kept driving down the road, my perspective changed and it was the sun hitting a weirdly shaped cloud in the
Oh
sky.
my God, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
so I can see how this would happen, but this is all kinds of different people from different vantage points,
Yeah.
different areas at the same time seeing the
The
same things.
sky, the ground, the same number. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. So to me, that's like irrefutable. So about 42 years later was one of the greatest mass sightings of a UFO, and it happened in Belgium. And it was so well known, and so many people saw it at the same time, they actually named it the Belgian wave. So in November of 1989, over 13,000 people and at least 30 separate groups reported witnessing the same large, dark, circular UFO with three bright lights. No concrete evidence was ever found of these sightings other than verbal reports from the witnesses. However, in March 1990, military stations were alerted to unidentified objects in the airspace. So two F-16 fighter jets were set into the air to investigate. The jets were actually able to lock onto these objects with their targets, but they eventually lost them because they were traveling so fast.
What?
Yeah, and to me, like to lose something on a target of a fighter jet, like that's
That's
what those are
so
designed
fast. They're
for.
fast. Yeah.
Exactly. Like those things are designed to lock on to like stuff flying through the air, like missiles and all kinds of stuff. The Belgian Air Force could not provide an explanation and joined forces with the UK's Ministry of Defence for further investigation. As they didn't actually uncover any threat to their people, the investigation was dropped. Some have tried to say that the sightings must have been helicopters, but witnesses are like, no way, these things were
What?
silent. Yeah, like it's such a cop
And
out.
can helicopters outrun a fighter jet? I don't think
No,
so.
like absolutely not. And then rebuttals to the silence speak about how maybe the wind was blowing and it took the sound away, or maybe you were in your car when you saw it, so you could only hear your engine. But I don't know about you. I've heard lots of helicopters flying over us because we have something called stars where we live. We could be in a tractor and you hear that. It's a
Yeah,
deep
I hear them
rumble.
every single day. I don't know why there's so many helicopters going over this area, but I hear
It's a
them like
distinct
once a day.
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just don't buy it. And the fact that it was 13,000 people in 30 separate groups, like they weren't just all together. Again, not super I guess it's not what am I trying to say? Again, it's pretty irrefutable. So, since that time, there's been many sightings, but many discredited by official sources. So there's been instances where it actually was military testing, and even one time where an advertising blimp was mistaken for a UFO. However, I know. In 2004 to 2006, there was a series of sightings in Illinois in Tinley Park and Oak Forest that do not have any reasonable explanation. The first sighting was on August 21, 2005, then 2 months later on October 31st, 2004, and again on October 1st, 2005. The final reported sighting was in October of 2006. Witnesses reported seeing three red orb-shaped lights hovering in a triangular formation. Whatever this was maintained the triangular shape as it moved around, as in the lights moved in total unison. So it seemed
Mm.
like they were attached to an object, not just kind of three separate free floating lights. Like, like the beams of those spotlights that can kind of move around.
Oh yeah.
The hovering was reported for up to 30 minutes and there was no sound.
Oh,
Skeptics were
that's freaky.
determined, very much. Skeptics were determined to find an alternative explanation. Some believe this was probably lights from a strobe light, but that doesn't make sense if they're in unison like that. There was a documentary There was a documentary about these lights on the History Channel, and it was reported that the lights were also observed at the same time around the world from Australia to British Columbia, so the west coast of Canada. And
Well,
if this were in fact the same lights seen in all sites, and they likely were, as the timelines matched, the object the lights were attached to would have to have exceeded 1,000 feet in length.
what?
Yes,
Wait,
like
what is 1,000 feet in length? Just like for
that's
reference.
massive. Like I'm 5'4", like that's 500 of
Yeah,
me.
I'm
Like
just
that's
like, what's the
the
Eiffel
yeah,
Tower? Oh, the Eiffel Tower is 1,060 feet.
yeah. So it would have to be just right around that in length for it to have been actually been able to be up in the air and observed in all of those locations. Not
That
wild.
is wild.
And the
A
timeline,
flying Eiffel Tower,
no, seriously, and the
basically. Yeah.
timelines match. Like, how
Wow.
are there people in all these different parts of the world who saw the same thing? So interesting. And that was on the History Channel, giving that information.
Wow.
Yeah. So, unlike my first couple stories, which I do have some photos from the first stories, but they're more just drawings or renderings of what these things might have been. But these lights were captured in both video and photo, which, in my opinion, gives the story even more credibility. In 2019, the US Navy apparently acknowledged that this is, in fact, an unidentified aerial phenomena, as they prefer to say instead of UFO.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I'm buying it.
now move past UFOs for a little bit, and I want to go into the concept of alien abduction.
Okay.
I know I'm changing gears here, but I just thought it fit. And someone recently told me about this, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since.
That this happened
So,
to them?
No, but they pointed me to this story, which there's a
Okay.
whole video on it, which we'll link on our website. But so you've all heard the stories, right? Someone's captured, taken aboard a ship, probed or examined, and then they have some kind of time loss or amnesia and they're kind of tossed back down to Earth.
Mhm.
Well, so the video I recently showed was so interesting. It demonstrated some what I think is proof of alien abduction. The claims by these individuals describe similar stories of first seeing a really bright light, then having like a total loss of time. So, in one example, there's a couple going for a walk away from their campsite, just briefly, like they did had a little campsite by the water or something, and they just wanted to walk over. All of a sudden, they're back at their campsite. Sorry, let me start that again. Uh, Shoot, where was I? In one example, a couple goes for a walk away from their campsite. They don't go very far, they just want to go for a little walk to a bridge that's nearby, so a couple-minute walk tops. They go to this bridge and they see a bright light at the end. All of a sudden, they're back at their campsite, and when they left it, the fire was roaring, like the logs were fresh and quite large. And when they found themselves back, the thing was basically just little bits of tinder, like it's out cold. And they were gone for minutes as far as they're concerned, not even
Whoa.
close to an hour. Now, in another account, an entire family is reported seeing a similar bright light when they're driving through the forest and a total loss of time again. All of a sudden, they're just back at their campsite. They remember driving, seeing the bright light, and then they're just back at their campsite with no explanation of what happened in between.
That's so weird.
So, what is striking in some of those claiming these situations is when they're fully examined using an X ray or a CT scan, something that can kind of pick up metallic objects, they're
Mhm.
found to have these little tiny metallic implants just next to bone, like either just next to the toe or next to a long bone, like a femur
Like a
or tibia.
bunch? Like, or each
These
person has like a tiny single piece.
just like one or max two. Like one lady that I'm going to talk about had two little spots, but any of the other images, if you watch the video yourself, it's usually just one little nut, tiny,
Can I
tiny
look at
little
the
flap.
pictures?
Yep. So go to the second last photo.
Oh.
Okay. So when I first saw that photo, I wasn't that excited by this lady's X-ray. Oh, I don't want to miss over something. Oops.
What's the second picture?
I'll get to it in just a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. So in one case, it was next to a woman's toe. They initially thought she had some kind of splinter because she was having a little pain and a little swelling in her toe. So when they took the image, they showed these little metallic clips in their foot. And the guy was like, well, you have surgical clips in your foot. And that's what I thought the image looked like. So we'll post it on our social. And to me, it looks like someone that's had an osteotomy or some kind of little toe surgery.
Okay,
She's
what's an
like, I've
osteotomy? Why would you have that and why would you get an
so some
implant?
people get like an osteotomy or something when they're fixing like a bunion on the foot or something, or just little surgery on the foot.
Like
And
if your
so they,
toe's like rotating the wrong
yeah,
way?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so she's like, I've never had a surgery in my life, which honestly, being in the field that I'm in, a lot of people do forget things that happen to them. So I'm a little skeptical of this. I'm not kidding. So I was, again, a little skeptical, but a podiatrist actually took that little piece of metal out of her, both of them rather. And when he pulled it out, you'll see it in the last photo on our social, it pulls out this little brown cocoon. Like there's no actual metal. It's this soft, like almost like plant like material. When it was further analyzed, the cocoon is made of materials found in our nails, skin, and hair. And inside of the cocoon, there's this metal, which they're calling meteoric iron, which is something that is only found in like asteroids that come down from Earth.
What?
Yeah. And so then they sent it off further for the little metals to be like analyzed by someone who like you can literally take it, look at the composition of every single little thing in it. And the elements don't even register on our periodic table.
What the
So
fuck?
that's this lady. Years later, they find another foreign implant from another person with the exact same characteristics. The only issue I take with this story is apart from this YouTube video and TV feature, I couldn't really find any more evidence about these little cocoons or these little implants. Like I thought this would be all over the internet, but I
They
actually
don't want
couldn't.
you to know.
Well, that's what I wonder. I don't know. So like, I don't, what do you think? Like,
Yeah, I think it's not going to be all over the internet. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about UFOs. I 100% think they exist. Would love to have more confirmed sightings and stuff, but I just think that like for so long people were like, I see something, and the government's like, no, you don't. And now they're like, okay, yeah, we have had people see unusual things in the sky before, like who work for the military, and we can't explain it.
That's the thing. Like when you actually have people who should know what's in our airspace, like that is their job to monitor
Yeah,
it, and they say, okay, yeah, we don't know what that was. Hmm, you
yeah.
gotta wonder.
And
And
now people are like, what's this element jammed in your body? I just think that somebody knows,
yeah,
and we're not supposed to know yet. Not that we're not supposed to know. People don't want us to know.
I kind of agree. And like,
This
it
podcast
could,
gets shut down. It's because of this episode.
yeah, come looking for us, guys. If you've been abducted or taken, or we're in Area 51.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it gives me the creeps. But I just think like we're on this little rock floating around space. Why wouldn't there be other life forms? And why wouldn't they be way more advanced than us?
Yeah.
So I don't know. There you have it. UFOs and some pretty concrete evidence of alien abductions, if you ask me. Have you ever seen a UFO? Have you been abducted? Please write to us. Let us know. Tell us your story.
Yes, please.
I'd love to know.
Thank you for joining us for another episode. I'm going to say that over again. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Beyond the Unknown. If you have a story you'd like to share, please email us at moody.mediaprod@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram. Who knows, your story might be featured in our next episode.
All of our sources for this episode can be found on our website, beyondtheunknownpod.com. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it.
Really, we love reading them.
Yes.
Until next time, listeners, stay curious and remember that the unknown is always just beyond the shadows.
Bye.
Bye.